This is my review of Mob Psycho 100. Okay, so this is hands down the best episode in the series, and there's one good reason for that. This entire episode is a setup for a joke. That's it. That's the whole reason. It's essentially the animators had the balls to dedicate an entire 22 minutes to a joke. That takes balls. I'm not gonna lie. That takes some serious balls to actually do, because that's just one of the best things you can do, and it's amazing. So what's the joke? I'll explain. So we've established so far that Reagan isn't exactly the most reliable person, but we do find out in this episode that while he is a con man, he's a con man that tricks people into doing things that are actually good for him. Case in point, this guy is having posture issues because he spends a lot of late nights surfing porn, and Reagan helps him out by giving him a massage and helping melt the tension away. After which Mob expresses that he feels like he's not living a fulfilling youth, and he has psychic powers. Meanwhile, the Telepathy Club at his school just lost a member and need to find a new member before they're shut down, and they have no time to do it because immediately the school council vice president shows up and threatens to shut them down in 2 days if they can't find another member, because they need 5 members to stay open, and without another member, they're going to be shut down. So they spend a good part of the afternoon trying to find a new club member, but everybody turns them down because of how shady and creepy the Telepathy Club sounds and is, admittedly, because it's established later that the Telepathy Club doesn't actually research telepathy. They're just a bunch of friends that get together and eat junk food using their club room budget. So yeah, it establishes the thing is, it's supposed to set up a trope that the evil student council is going to shut down the club of closely knit friends unless they can find a new member. Although, when you actually look at it, there are quite a few reasons to shut down the club, because they're kind of just exploiting a loophole to keep themselves in the club room indefinitely and just waste school money on junk food. So eventually, after having absolutely no options, they finally come across Mob, who is established to have psychic powers already. And what you're thinking is that the club, who are kind of serious about the telepathy part somewhat, have kind of grown disinterested with the whole concept of espers and psychic powers as time went on, mainly due to the fact that espers are far and few between, so very few people actually have psychic powers. So Mob is actually recruited to join the Telepathy Club, and he thinks it over despite everybody, including Reagan, whom he called to let him know what's going through his mind about it, not to. So basically everybody is coming forward, and even the club president, Tome Kagura, gets into a heated debate with Reagan about the subject, and the two go back and forth about ideals and stuff like that, and about who is actually wasting Mob's time, and they're both right. I'm just gonna say it, they're both right. Yeah, the Telepathy Club doesn't actually research telepathy and is shady as hell, but then again, Reagan doesn't have any psychic powers of his own and is using Mob to banish spirits for him, which is also shady as hell. So Mob decides to come back the next day and think it over. While he's doing that, he and Reagan attempt to infiltrate an all girls school for a job, and while Reagan is immediately stopped at the door, Mob gets in scot-free and goes to meet their clients on the roof, who are skeptical of him at first and constantly putting him down, but eventually Mob is able to convince them that he is indeed a full-on esper and does eventually track down the spirit. spirit known as Smell Demon or something like that, something along those lines. But this spirit's kind of a pervert. He's a male spirit hanging out in an all-girls school, and clearly has been messing with the girls for the entire duration of his afterlife. So Mob effortlessly defeats him, but as the spirit is fading away, he realizes that he and Mob are kind of the same, and realizes that Mob may or may not be living his life to the fullest, and asks Mob if he actually is before vanishing into nothing. With this newfound revelation from the spirit that he just exorcised, he returns to the Telepathy Club the next day after thinking it over a bit more, and is about to sign the paperwork when the student council president shows up with the Body Improvement Club, a newly formed club that are attempting to take over the room. And you can tell that these guys are supposed to be these tough, intimidating figures because of how they're shot in the anime, and how they're portrayed in the manga. Because in the manga they're portrayed with these JoJo menacing sound effects that play in the manga, but not so much in the anime, and can recruit. And Mob and the student council vice president, after realizing that Mob may be considering joining the Telepathy Club, hassles him for a bit and asks him what he actually wants to do and how he wants to live his life to the fullest. And then at this point, Mob remembers something from his childhood about how he initially tried to impress Tsubomi with his psychic powers, but she kind of grew bored of it and started looking at the more attractive guys in her class. And Mob finally decides to make a decision and decides to join the club, the Body Improvement Club. So, yes, what makes this joke work is that all the information just clicks at once. So it establishes that the joke is that Mob is established to have psychic powers, and the Telepathy Club initially started researching psychic powers, but kind of fell out of interest with that once they realized that was kind of pointless, because there really isn't a way to develop psychic powers. And you think that's how this is going to play out. You can see them being a lovable cast of side characters for Mob to hang out with and pal around with, and you think that they're going to establish a new friendship with him, and they're eventually going to reinvigorate their interest in the supernatural. But that's not how it plays out. The way it plays out is that Mob decides to join the Body Improvement Club because he's not exactly the most athletic person, and he's already got psychic power. So why would he even consider joining a Telepathy Club that really serves no purpose to him at all? And the joke is amazing, and that's really funny because it's one of the funniest jokes I've ever seen in an anime, and it's great. It is top down one of my favorite jokes, mainly because it takes an entire episode to get to the punchline, and it pays off. But what's really amazing is that this joke is just kind of sets up the whole trope about the student council president shutting down a club of closely knit friends. But then you look at it and realize there are a good number of reasons why the club should be disbanded in the first place. And it is a very interesting little take on that, and it is a very funny joke. And this is why I like One Stuff, because I love how he breaks down tropes like this. He set up, for example, his most popular show, One Punch Man, is designed to break the trope of a guy who works so hard he became overpowered, and eventually no person can match him, and it kept going and going, by making the guy already overpowered from the start, and he's just bored out of his mind, and establishes what happens when you've already succeeded in becoming the world's strongest hero. And Mob Psycho 100 is kind of similar. It's about us becoming more well-rounded, and because Mob isn't the most athletic, it sets up the whole idea of him joining the Body Improvement Club so that he can become more physically fit, so that he can try and impress Tsubomi with his newfound physical fitness. And I don't really remember if he does succeed or not in that. It's kind of ambiguous and up in the air as to if he actually succeeds in winning Tsubami's affection because of it. But the series does eventually end. It's probably going to end after season 3. But it is definitely an interesting little idea for an episode. It's the style. It breaks down the whole student council shutting down a club room joke, and just makes it work in a way that makes sense by establishing that the joke is Mob was thinking about joining the Telepathy Club, but then he realizes there's no real point in joining the Telepathy Club, so let's join the Body Improvement Club. I mean, I probably over-explained this a bit more than I needed to, but the joke is just hilarious to me. I like this episode, and I definitely recommend those who are watching the show for the first time to watch this episode, which is great because it's like the second episode in the first season, so it's not like you can really miss it anyway. But anyway, that's really my take on this episode. I do enjoy the episode, and I do think it's very funny because it does take balls to set up an entire joke over the 22 minutes, and I appreciate this episode for that. So if you guys did enjoy this episode of Mob Psycho 100, what did you guys think? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord server, link in the description. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, be sure to follow me on Facebook and on Twitter in the description below. And also, check out my Patreon description below as well if you like what you see and want to help support the channel. It's only a couple bucks a month, and it really helps me out, and you get access to a bunch of different tier rewards depending on how much you pledge per month. So I definitely recommend checking those out and seeing what fits your budget the most, and seeing what perks you are able to afford. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace! Very drained of his energy and is having trouble kind of staying awake during the day. So this all comes to a head when Goto finally finds out about the excessive force charges that people have been leveling on the two heroes. But in his defense, nobody has actually